Welcome to the Economist in Your Ear podcast. What if the success story of an entire industry, once celebrated as a global superpower, isn't quite as straightforward as it seems? Today, we're looking at Britain's role in the global video gaming industry. A recent perspective calls it a superpower, and, well, we'll explore what makes that claim so compelling. But crucially, we'll also shine a light on some nuances, maybe some potential blind spots, and what the future might truly hold. It's really about getting beyond the headlines to the deeper story and getting you well-informed on this dynamic sector.
Yeah, it's a critical lens to apply, I think, because while the UK gaming industry certainly has this, fantastic narrative of success, a fuller picture reveals not just the impressive present, but also the underlying dynamics and, frankly, potential vulnerabilities that are going to shape its long-term future.
Okay, let's unpack this then. On the surface, Britain certainly feels like a global gaming superpower. What, for instance, does the prevailing narrative get so right about this? For starters, the sheer numbers are genuinely impressive. Britain truly punches above its weight in this industry. I mean, consider this. Exports of UK games and related services practically tripled between 2016 and 2021. They jumped from around 3.4 billion to nearly 8.8 billion. That's a staggering leap.
It's a massive acceleration. And if you look at global rankings, excluding the unique case of the Cayman Islands, the UK stands as the third largest exporter of video games globally. That's behind only America and Japan. So this isn't just about entertainment, it's a significant economic engine. It's actually generating more revenue than the film industry when you exclude streaming and the music industries combined. We're talking, what, 4.3 billion for games versus 3.4 billion for film and music together? The critical takeaway here is that the UK isn't just a consumer market, it's a huge exporter of creative digital goods.
Yeah.
That really puts it in an elite global league.
Right. And the creative and code DNA, that's absolutely undeniable, isn't it? This isn't some recent surge. We're talking about historical roots that stretch back decades. Games like Grand Theft Auto, for example, that began with DMA design up in Dundee, Scotland, and it's still made by Rockstar North in Edinburgh. And Tomb Raider, another billion-dollar franchise, started as a sketch in Derby. This isn't folklore, it's the industry's origin story, really tied to the early 1980s bedroom coders and a grassroots creativity, quite distinct from the console-driven markets we saw elsewhere. It's genuinely homegrown innovation.
Absolutely. And that foundational creativity is still evident today. It drives a consistent output of unique intellectual property, or IP, from the UK. Think about other successful British-made titles: Fall Guys, Little Big Planet, the Total War, Warhammer series. And this creative bedrock was further solidified when Abertay University in Dundee launched the world's first computer game degree way back in 1997. That kind of institutional support for a burgeoning industry was incredibly forward-thinking. It demonstrated a real long-term commitment.
And crucially, it's not just a London story. That's often the narrative we hear about successful UK industries, right? But gaming jobs are genuinely spread across the country. Data shows that well over half, some sources even suggest up to 80% of development roles are actually outside London and the Southeast.
Yeah, this genuinely reflects a leveling up aspect of the industry, which is quite unique. You see significant hubs emerging in places like Dundee, Leamington Spa, Guildford, Brighton, Slough, Teesside. You even have examples like Katie Goody. She's a rocket scientist turned game designer running her VR studio from North Cornwall, one of the country's most remote corners. This decentralization of talent and studios is, I think, a key strength. It builds on those original bedroom coder clusters and provides resilience, diverse perspectives, too.
Okay. And underpinning all of this, just before we shift to the challenges, let's acknowledge the strong domestic demand and some smart policy support that also fuel this industry. UK consumer spend on games actually rose to around 7.6 to 7.8 billion in 2024, and that's even as the global market faced some slowdown. So people in the UK are still very much buying and playing games. And
that robust domestic demand is met with increasingly effective policy support. The Video Games Expenditure Credit, or VGEC, now offers a significant 34% credit. This is a material advantage for qualifying UK studios. It's replaced the older video games tax relief, VGTR. It really can make a difference in terms of making UK-based productions more financially viable, more attractive.
So if you're just looking at those statistics, you might think, yep, definitely a superpower, but the picture gets more complicated when we consider what might be missing from that narrative, or perhaps what aspects are a little too rosy. My first question here is about consolidation risk. While Britain clearly creates hit games, is it actually retaining the long-term value from that success? It really does seem like many successful studios and their valuable intellectual property are getting acquired by foreign entities.
This raises a very important question about building long-term domestic champions. You're right, the evidence is compelling. Electronic Arts acquired Codemasters. The Chinese conglomerate Tencent bought Sumo Group. And when these mid-cap scale-ups are acquired, it doesn't just drain the ecosystem. It means that profits, crucial decision-making power, control over future innovations. That often shifts out of the UK. This really impacts Britain's ability to truly build and own its long-term future in gaming, rather than just being a source of talent for others.
And this trend of acquisition, it isn't happening in a vacuum, is it? It's set against the backdrop of a truly brutal near-term cycle hitting the entire global industry right now. We've seen 2023 to 2025 described as a kind of reset for the whole sector.
Yeah, what's critical here is that this isn't just a typical wobble. It's more like a capital cycle correction.
Yeah.
And it disproportionately hits what we call AA games, those mid-budget titles and live service games which need constant updates and engagement. A capital cycle correction, well, it essentially means a widespread market recalibration after a period of really rapid investment and growth. Often leads to consolidation, cost-cutting. We've seen mass layoffs like those at Xbox, Activision Blizzard King, Sony. Studios have closed, like Free Radical. Major projects canceled, like Creative Assembly's Hyenas. The mood at industry conferences as well, it's notably subdued. You see many attendees actively looking for new opportunities. It's a tough environment out there.
Now, let's talk about AI. Some people see it as a potential silver bullet, right? A solution that could significantly boost productivity. For instance, you hear stories like a game level that once took, say, 90 days to build may now take just 10. But who truly benefits from that kind of speed up? Couldn't a nimble UK studio known for its creativity leverage AI to create stunning visuals and unique gameplay far faster than a behemoth? Where's the opportunity for them?
That's a great question, and it really highlights the uneven distribution of the benefits from AI. Because while AI tools are indeed making content creation faster, the operating leverage from AI, it primarily accrues to platforms and large-scale publishers. They're the ones with the deep pockets for compute power, for user acquisition, global distribution. They're also typically the holders of vast global IP. So that productivity dividend you mentioned, it's actually very unevenly distributed. Now, for smaller creative studios, AI offers incredible tools for iteration, for efficiency, absolutely. But the larger systemic benefits, they often flow upwards. This also ties into the Competition and Markets Authority's long-running concerns about, gatekeeper power in mobile and app ecosystems, which are now being addressed under the UK's new Digital Markets Competition and Consumers Regime, the DMCC. This new regime aims to curb the power of large tech companies, potentially allowing things like side-loading apps, installing them directly, bypassing the official app store. That could offer more choice and maybe fairer terms for developers.
Right. And beyond that, there's still so much uncertainty around AI and copyright, isn't there? That must impact studios' willingness to invest heavily.
Absolutely. UK policy on AI and copyright is still unsettled. The government actually dropped its 2023 Code of Practice push. And a recent consultation running late 2024 to early 2025 hasn't yet produced stable rules. This lack of clarity is a real problem for studios looking to build AI-heavy pipelines or maybe train models on their own internal assets. Without stable rules, risk-averse studios will simply underinvest in these new tools, and that could hamper innovation and the UK's competitive edge in AI-powered content creation.
Okay, beyond AI, another point that might be missing from the superpower narrative is that finance, not just a creative mindset, seems to be a real scaling bottleneck for UK studios. I mean, while there's new attention on the sector, things like the Creative Industries Sector Plan, the British Business Bank stepping up, is it actually enough to bridge that gap?
Well, what's clear here is that there's a very real early and growth stage equity gap. It's noticeable. If you look at mobile gaming, for instance, UK success stories like Triple Dot, they're actually acquiring scale themselves. They bought AppLovin's mobile games arm for, $800 million. They're doing the acquiring rather than being acquired, which kind of signals a struggle to build domestic champions organically from within the UK. It suggests the investment landscape needs to mature further to truly support scaling up. It's not enough just to create. You need the capital to grow and compete globally.
And finally, on the potential blind spots, when you hear about Cambridge being cited as this incredibly dense innovation cluster, how accurate is that comparison on a truly global scale? Is it just a UK-centric view, perhaps, or does it genuinely stand alongside the world's best?
Yeah, this needs nuance. While the World Intellectual Property Organization's data does show Cambridge-centric clusters scoring strongly on density, so a lot of innovation packed into a small area, Tokyo, Yokohama, and Silicon Valley still absolutely dominate on absolute scale. That distinction is important when you're talking about the long-run infrastructure needed for large-scale AI development or major content creation pipelines. Cambridge is impressive, for sure, but it's not yet in the same league as those global giants in terms of sheer volume and ecosystem maturity.
Okay, so if it's not a guaranteed superpower, how should we then think about Britain's actual role in the global gaming ecosystem? What's a sharper framing for it, given all these nuances we've discussed?
I think the most accurate way to frame the UK is maybe not as a guaranteed superpower, but perhaps more as a high-end content and tools lab, operating within a market that's, let's face it, heavily dominated by platforms. Its real comparative advantages are clear, though. First, it has a knack for distinctive IP and craft. Think unique narratives, innovative systems design, really quirky worlds that travel globally, like Thank Goodness You're Here, capturing a very specific British soul.
It definitely taps into that unique British creative legacy, but is that eccentricity enough of a competitive edge, especially in a global market that seems increasingly dominated by mass appeal blockbusters? So what are the key vulnerabilities then when you look at that content lab framing?
That's the challenge, isn't it? The primary vulnerabilities are quite clear, I think. First, scale and distribution. There's just a heavy dependence on large US and Chinese publishers and mobile gatekeepers for reaching global audiences. Second, cyclicality. Those AA and live service bets, which are common in the UK, are particularly exposed to broader macroeconomic shocks, ad market shocks. We've seen this play out recently with layoffs and closures. And third, policy uncertainty on AI training and copyright. That remains a significant risk. Until stable rules harden, risk-averse studios will likely underinvest in AI-heavy pipelines, potentially ceding ground to markets with clearer regulations.
That's a really clear picture, yeah. Both strengths and vulnerability. It makes you wonder, given the rise of AI and content creation, what truly remains unique and defensible for British creativity? So if that's the sharper framing a high-end content lab with vulnerabilities, what are the practical indicators we, as listeners, should be keeping a close eye on? How do we truly gauge the UK's gaming future?
Excellent question. Okay, first, watch the App Store conduct under that new DMCC regime. Can the CMA actually constrain those must-use billing terms? Can it make sideloading truly feasible? That could give UK mobile studios back some margin and, importantly, user acquisition options. Second, pay attention to the uptake of the 34% VGEC. Is the HMRC guidance making it predictable, easy to use? Will that lead to a surge of UK finance productions? We need to see. Third, the UK spillovers from GTA ZAZ in 2026. Its massive success will obviously validate the UK's AAA pipeline, but will it genuinely fix the mid-market crunch? Or will its halo effect primarily fund, new independent IP without really addressing the broader ecosystem squeeze? And finally, keep an eye on capital formation. Does the creative industry sector plan actually translate into more UK domiciled growth funds, bigger checks? So the next Codemaster stays independent and isn't just another foreign acquisition waiting to happen. These are the real metrics that will tell us if Britain's building true champions.
So what does this nuanced understanding mean for those actually making and shaping games? For founders and for policymakers, what should they take away?
Okay, for founders, I think it means you need to lean into your defensible edges.
Yeah.
Think about licensed British IP like Games Workshop's Warhammer, which has been hugely successful globally, or really focus on strong community-first game design. Build that loyal audience and use AI smartly. Use it for things like asset iteration, tooling, testing, not just AI for content's sake, which can frankly lead to generic output. You also need to model for longer burn times, factor in those inevitable platform taxes, and definitely diversify your user acquisition. Don't put all your eggs in one digital basket.
Right, sound advice. And for the people in power, the policymakers, what should they be prioritizing to really support this industry and help it move beyond just being a content lab?
For policymakers, predictability for the VGEC is paramount, making sure HMRC guidance is crystal clear and easy to use. That's number one. They also need to deliver DMCC remedies that genuinely matter to developers. Things like real billing choice or the actual feasibility of sideloading apps, not just theoretical possibilities. And crucially, they absolutely must finish the AI copyright job. Deliver a stable, workable regime that encourages innovation rather than creating legal uncertainty and risk aversion. The 2025 Creative Industry Sector Plan is just a start. Its execution will truly determine whether Britain nurtures those crucial mid-cap champions, the next Codemasters, and prevents them from simply becoming the next foreign acquisition statistic.
Okay, let's wrap up with this. Here's a final provocative thought for you, our listener, to chew on. In a world increasingly saturated with AI-generated content, The Economist's own strategy for creative industries suggests that, quote, human endeavor and creativity will be more important than ever.
Exactly. And this raises a really important question, doesn't it? Can Britain's distinctive eccentricity, its knack for telling great stories that haven't been told before, as one developer put it, can that truly be its greatest, most defensible asset in an AI-driven future? And maybe for you listening, what unique human qualities will you rely on to navigate an increasingly AI-driven world?
We've peeled back the layers on Britain's gaming industry today, moving beyond that simple superpower narrative to understand its true strengths and, yes, its vulnerabilities.
It's a compelling case study, I think, in how innovation thrives, but also how external forces and, critically, policy decisions truly shape its trajectory.
We hope this exploration has given you a richer, more nuanced understanding of this incredibly dynamic sector. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the core of the topic.